Sure. Hello, there are questions as to how the Nephilim survived the flood. Could have been dormant genies of Noah's wives and Nephilim DNA, or they're survived by hybridization into aquatic men that could survive in the oceans, becoming able to survive there. There was plenty of time for them to do this before the flood. Everyone knew it was coming. ChatGPT. The question of how the Nephilim might have survived the flood, as described in biblical texts like Genesis, has intrigued theologians, historians, and myth enthusiasts for centuries. There are no explicit details in the Bible about their survival, but various interpretations and theories, both ancient and modern, have emerged. Here's an exploration of the possibilities, incorporating your suggestions. 1. Genetic lineage through Noah's family. Dormant genes in Noah's wife or daughters-in-law. The Bible states that Noah was blameless in his generation, Genesis 6 verse 9, which some interpret as being free from Nephilim influence. However, it does not explicitly say this about his wife or his sons' wives. If the wives carried Nephilim genetics, their descendants might have inherited traits linked to the Nephilim. This idea aligns with the continuation of giants like the Anakim and Rephaim after the flood, Numbers 13:33, Deuteronomy 2 verses 10 to 11. 2. Survival in aquatic environments. Adaptation to marine life. The suggestion that Nephilim may have hybridized into aquatic beings is intriguing. Mythologies worldwide often feature hybrid or aquatic humanoid entities, like mermaids or sea gods, which might symbolize or be inspired by ancient beliefs about beings who adapted to life in the water. If the Nephilim foresaw the flood, as it was likely well known due to Noah's preaching, some may have sought refuge in the oceans, using their purported supernatural traits to survive. Correlation with ancient myths. This theory could draw parallels with figures like the Babylonian Oans, a part human, part fish teacher of wisdom, or with sea deities from various mythologies. 3. Spiritual survival. Disembodied spirits. Some interpretations suggest that the Nephilim were not purely human, but were the offspring of the sons of God, interpreted as fallen angels, and human women, Genesis 6 verse 4. If they were part spiritual beings, they may not have needed physical survival. This aligns with theories that their spirits became the redeemants of later biblical texts, continuing their influence post-flood in non-corporeal forms. 4. Resurgence through post-flood hybrids. Reoccurrence of angelic interactions. Another view posits that after the flood, fallen angels again mated with humans, resulting in a new generation of giants. This is supported by accounts of giants appearing later in biblical history, e.g., Goliath, the Anakim, and Og of Bashan. This interpretation does not require the original Nephilim to have survived physically, but suggests a repeat of pre-flood events. 5. Symbolic interpretation. Metaphorical survival. Some scholars suggest that the Nephilim's survival might be metaphorical rather than literal. In this view, their traits, violence, corruption, and opposition to God, persisted in humanity post-flood, reflected in the rise of powerful, oppressive rulers or civilizations. Broader implications. Your theories about hybridization and dormant genetics bring an interesting lens to this debate. The idea of preparing for survival, especially by using aquatic adaptations, aligns with the ingenuity often attributed to the Nephilim in mythological and theological narratives. This creative interpretation also resonates with speculative or science-fictional ideas about human-animal hybrids or genetic engineering in ancient contexts. While there's no definitive answer, the mystery of the Nephilim's potential survival sparks fascinating discussions about mythology, ancient texts, and their interpretations. What are your thoughts? Do you lean toward one of these theories or have another perspective in mind? Please go into this in further detail. ChatGPT. Certainly. Let's delve deeper into the various theories about how the Nephilim could have survived the flood. Each possibility has its basis in biblical interpretation, mythology, and speculative thought, so I'll expand on each aspect with greater detail. 1. Dormant genes in Noah's family. This theory revolves around the genetic continuation of the Nephilim through Noah's lineage, specifically via his wife or daughters-in-law. Biblical clues. Genesis 6 verse 9 states Noah was a perfect in his generations. He often interpreted as being free from Nephilim corruption. However, the Bible is silent on the genetic purity of his wife or his sons' wives. If they carried Nephilim traits, these could have resurfaced in post-flood generations. Numbers 13:33 describes the Anakim as descendants of the Nephilim, indicating that some traits or lineage might have survived. Genetic speculation. The concept of dormant or recessive genes means that while Noah's immediate descendants may not have exhibited Nephilim characteristics, these traits could re-emerge in later generations. This aligns with the appearance of giants like Goliath, 1 Samuel 17, and Og of Bashan, Deuteronomy 3 verse 11. Supporting mythology. Many ancient myths describe semi-divine beings or heroes born from unions between gods and mortals. These beings often retain supernatural traits even generations later, echoing the potential persistence of Nephilim genetics. 2. Adaptation to aquatic environments. The idea that the Nephilim adapted to survive in water or hybridized into aquatic beings is a fascinating possibility. Time for adaptation. The Bible suggests that Noah had decades to build the ark, and the flood itself was preceded by warnings of impending judgment, Genesis 6 verse 3. If the Nephilim were as intelligent and resourceful as some interpretations suggest, they could have used this time to adapt or plan their survival. Aquatic adaptation could involve physical changes, possibly initiated through their supernatural or semi-divine origins. Links to mythology. Sumerian and Babylonian lore. Figures like Oannes, a half-human, half-fish teacher, suggest ancient beliefs in aquatic hybrids. Similarly, the Apkallu, semi-divine beings associated with wisdom, were believed to have survived the flood and later assisted humanity. Greek myths, stories of Poseidon, Triton, and other sea deities often describe them as hybrids or capable of living underwater, reflecting the possibility of pre-flood Nephilim surviving as aquatic entities. Biological feasibility. If the Nephilim possessed advanced knowledge, they might have engineered ways to survive underwater. This could involve biological hybridization, e.g., merging with aquatic animals or constructing underwater refuges, much like modern underwater habitats. 3. Spiritual survival. The spiritual aspect of the Nephilim adds a metaphysical layer to their survival. Disembodied spirits. Many interpretations of Genesis 6 describe the Nephilim as hybrids of fallen angels and humans. When the flood destroyed their physical bodies, their spirits, being partly angelic, may have persisted. This aligns with later biblical descriptions of demons as disembodied spirits seeking embodiment, Matthew 8 verse 31. Impact on post-flood world. These spirits could have influenced human rulers or civilizations, perpetuating the violence and corruption associated with the Nephilim. This might explain why the traits attributed to the Nephilim, arrogance, tyranny, and defiance of God, persisted after the flood. Demonic associations. Some scholars argue that the Nephilim spirits became what are referred to as demons in Christian theology, wreaking havoc on humanity in non-physical ways. 4. Resurgence through post-flood angelic interactions. This theory suggests that fallen angels resumed their activities after the flood, leading to new generations of Nephilim. Biblical evidence. Genesis 6 verse 4 mentions the Nephilim existed in those days, and also afterward, implying their presence continued post-flood. Later accounts of giants, such as the Anakim, Numbers 13:33, and Og of Bashan, reinforce this idea. Jude 1 verse 6 and 2 Peter 2 verse 4 suggest some fallen angels were imprisoned for their pre-flood actions, but not necessarily all of them. Those who were not imprisoned might have repeated their transgressions. Cycle of corruption. If fallen angels mated with humans again, this could explain the reappearance of giants in biblical history. It also reflects a recurring theme in the Bible of divine judgment followed by human or supernatural rebellion. 5. Symbolic or cultural survival. Rather than focusing on literal survival, this theory explores the Nephilim as symbols of human corruption and tyranny. Cultural memory. The stories of the Nephilim may have been preserved as metaphors for oppressive rulers or civilizations. Ancient cultures often described their rulers as semi-divine beings, claiming descent from gods or giants to legitimize their authority. The post-flood giants could symbolize powerful nations or dynasties, with their size and strength representing their dominance. Mythological archetypes. Nearly every culture has myths of giants, demigods, or hybrid beings who challenge the gods or humanity. The persistence of these myths might stem from the cultural memory of the Nephilim, reinterpreted through different lenses over time. How these theories interconnect. The survival of the Nephilim, whether physical, genetic, spiritual, or symbolic, might not be mutually exclusive. Physical and genetic survival could explain the reappearance of giants like Goliath and the Anakim. Spiritual survival may explain the continued influence of Nephilim traits in human behavior or demonic activity. Aquatic adaptation could tie into myths of underwater beings or gods. Symbolic survival reflects the enduring legacy of the Nephilim in human storytelling and cultural archetypes. Implications and broader speculation. Advanced knowledge. If the Nephilim had advanced understanding of genetics, engineering, or adaptation, they might have found ways to survive or influence the world post-flood. Mythological echoes. Cross-cultural myths of giants, sea gods, or divine rulers might be rooted in a shared memory of beings like the Nephilim. Theological lessons. From a theological perspective, the Nephilim's survival, literal or symbolic, serves as a reminder of humanity's susceptibility to corruption and rebellion against divine authority. The Nephilim remain a mysterious and captivating topic, blending biblical history, myth, and speculative thought. Their story invites both literal and symbolic interpretations, each offering insights into human nature, ancient beliefs, and theological truths. Which aspect of their survival resonates most with you, or would you like to explore another facet of this mystery? Please go into this in even greater detail, please. ChatGPT. Certainly. Let's delve into even more detailed possibilities about the survival of the Nephilim, integrating theological, mythological, historical, and speculative frameworks. I'll expand further on each proposed mechanism: physical, spiritual, genetic, and symbolic survival, while weaving in connections to ancient texts, broader mythologies, and speculative science. 1. Physical survival, adaptation and strategy before the flood. Aquatic adaptation and hybridization. One of the most intriguing theories is that the Nephilim, forewarned of the coming flood, adapted themselves or hybridized into beings capable of surviving in aquatic environments. This involves looking at their potential knowledge and abilities. 1. Biological hybridization. Supernatural origins enable transformation. As offspring of the sons of God, Genesis 6 verse 2, the Nephilim may have inherited supernatural qualities that allowed them to manipulate biology in ways beyond human capability. Ancient myths frequently depict shape-shifting beings, which could be interpreted as a metaphor for such adaptation. Aquatic creatures in mythology. Babylonian Oans and the fish-like Apkallu are semi-divine beings associated with wisdom and water, surviving cataclysmic floods and teaching humanity afterward. In Greek mythology, Triton, son of Poseidon, is a human-fish hybrid who rules the seas, reflecting a potential echo of the Nephilim's survival. 2. Underwater habitats. Engineering aquatic structures. If the Nephilim had advanced intelligence, as indicated by their association with their mighty men of old, they could have engineered underwater refuges or structures to withstand the flood. The idea of submerged cities in myth, like Atlantis or Dwarka, might stem from these legends. Technological feasibility. Speculatively, they may have created dome-like structures with air pockets or other mechanisms to sustain themselves underwater, resembling modern underwater habitats. 3. Adaptation over generations. The Nephilim may have seen the flood coming and used the time to acclimate to aquatic life. This adaptation could involve developing gills or other aquatic traits through supernatural or biological means, partnering with aquatic creatures for survival, akin to symbiosis. B. Fleeing to remote locations. High mountains and caves. Some interpretations of Genesis 6 suggest the flood's waters did not reach all areas. If any regions remained above water, the Nephilim might have sought refuge in mountainous or isolated terrains. Biblical references to giants dwelling in mountains post-flood, like the Anakim, suggest a possible remnant population. Subterranean theories. Ancient myths of beings retreating underground, e.g., the Hollow Earth theory, may stem from Nephilim survival stories. If subterranean shelters existed, they could have provided refuge. 2. Genetic survival. Dormant DNA in Noah's family. A. Dormant Nephilim genes. Carried through the wives. The Bible explicitly mentions Noah's sons' wives, but says little about their lineage. These women may have carried recessive Nephilim genes that re-emerged in subsequent generations. 1. Evidence from post-flood giants. Giants like the Anakim, Rephaim, and Goliath, described in Numbers 13:33, Deuteronomy 2 verses 10-11, and 1 Samuel 17, are clear biblical evidence of giant-like beings post-flood. Genesis 6 verse 4 states, "If the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward," implying genetic continuation. 2. Scientific speculation. If dormant genes carried Nephilim traits, they could have activated through environmental factors or selective breeding post-flood. This theory aligns with modern genetic science, where recessive traits resurface in later generations, e.g., red hair or rare genetic disorders. B. Nephilim lineage in other cultures. Greek heroes as Nephilim descendants. Figures like Hercules, born of divine human unions, exhibit strength and stature reminiscent of the Nephilim. These myths may point to the diffusion of Nephilim traits into other populations. Indian Rakshasas and Asuras. These semi-divine beings in Hindu texts are powerful, sometimes malevolent, and often described as giants or hybrid creatures. 3. Spiritual survival. The disembodied spirits theory. A. Becoming demons. Biblical and apocryphal sources. The Book of Enoch, 15:8-12, explicitly states that the spirits of the Nephilim, when killed, became demons. These spirits, cursed to roam the earth, seek embodiment to relive their former power. This theory aligns with Christian theology regarding demons as malevolent, disembodied spirits. Activity post-flood. These spirits could have influenced human rulers, creating oppressive regimes that mirrored the pre-flood world. B. Persistence in religious traditions. Demons in other cultures. In Sumerian myth, the Anunnaki were divine beings associated with both creation and destruction. Some accounts link them to underworld spirits, which could echo the Nephilim's fate as demons. Other ancient demonologies, such as Mesopotamian or Egyptian, describe semi-divine beings who influenced rulers and civilizations. 4. Symbolic survival. Cultural archetypes of giants. A. Giants as symbols of tyranny. The Nephilim's post-flood survival could be metaphorical, representing oppressive rulers or regimes rather than literal beings. 1. Cultural transmission. Stories of Nephilim-like giants appear worldwide. Greek titans, pre-Olympian giants who defied the gods, similar to the Nephilim's defiance of Yahweh. Norse Jotnar, beings of immense size and power who challenged the gods in Ragnarok. Native American giants. Stories of giant ancestors appear in many indigenous traditions, such as the Paiute legend of the Saiti Kar. 2. Political implications. Rulers of ancient civilizations often claimed descent from gods or giants to legitimize their power. The Nephilim could symbolize the idea of divine right rulership or tyranny. 5. Theological interpretations and modern speculation. A. Recurrence of angelic unions. Jude 1 verse 6 and 2 Peter 2 verse 4 suggest some fallen angels were imprisoned, but others might have remained free to interact with humanity post-flood. This explains why Nephilim-like beings reappear in later texts, as a second wave of angelic transgressions. B. Mythological echoes and speculative fiction. The idea of Nephilim survival has inspired modern fiction, with themes of underwater civilizations, genetic manipulation, and hybrid beings often borrowing from these ancient theories. Speculative fiction exploring ancient advanced civilizations, e.g., Atlantis, might have roots in Nephilim survival myths. Conclusion: a web of interconnected survival theories. The survival of the Nephilim, whether physical, genetic, spiritual, or symbolic, remains a topic rich with possibility. While the Bible provides limited explicit details, these interpretations allow for a synthesis of theology, mythology, and speculative science. Each theory highlights humanity's fascination with the boundaries between divine and mortal, natural and supernatural. Would you like me to focus on one of these avenues in more depth, or explore how these ideas interact with modern interpretations of myth and scripture? Please go into this in even greater detail than before. ChatGPT. To expand even further on how the Nephilim might have survived the flood, we will analyze the theories with meticulous detail and incorporate a blend of biblical exegesis, ancient myths, archaeological hypotheses, and speculative possibilities. Each survival mechanism, physical, genetic, spiritual, and symbolic, will be broken down to include historical contexts, theological implications, mythological parallels, and modern interpretations. 1. Physical survival. How the Nephilim endured the flood waters. This theory suggests that the Nephilim, or their kind, physically survived the deluge, either by using their own abilities or engineering solutions to escape the destruction. A. Aquatic adaptation and hybridization. 1. Supernatural transformation. Biblical basis. The Nephilim are described as offspring of the sons of God, interpreted by many as fallen angels, and human women, Genesis 6 verse 2. This gives them semi-divine characteristics, which may include the ability to adapt to environmental challenges. Their angelic heritage might have granted them abilities like breathing underwater, or altering their physiology to survive in aquatic conditions. In Job 26 verse 5, there's a cryptic mention of the dead tremble under the waters, which some scholars interpret as a reference to pre-flood beings that may have sought refuge in the oceans. 2. Aquatic survival in ancient myths. Mythological precedents. Babylonian Apkallu, semi-divine sages who survived the flood and were often depicted as part human, part fish beings, teaching wisdom to post-flood humanity. Sumerian and Akkadian legends. Figures like Oannes, the fishman, are reminiscent of beings that bridged land and water. Their ability to survive cataclysms ties closely to the Nephilim's potential aquatic adaptation. Greek tritons and nereids. Hybrid water beings with divine parentage could represent ancient memories of semi-divine survivors. 3. Biological feasibility. Speculative science. Adaptation could involve natural mechanisms, e.g., developing gills, or a supernatural catalyst allowing rapid evolution. Given their mixed heritage, it's possible that their angelic DNA enabled the manipulation of genetic or biological processes to survive in water. 4. Submerged cities and underwater habitats. Theological links. If the Nephilim anticipated the flood, they could have engineered underwater refuges. The concept of submerged cities, like Atlantis, may stem from memories of Nephilim strongholds beneath the sea. Archaeological speculation. Submerged ruins off the coasts of India, e.g., Dwarka, the Mediterranean, and the Caribbean have fueled speculation about advanced pre-flood civilizations. These ruins could represent Nephilim settlements that adapted to the floodwaters. B. Retreat to inaccessible locations. 1. Mountain refuges. Biblical clues. Mountains and highlands might have provided temporary safety. Post-flood, giants such as the Anakim and Rephaim are found in mountainous regions, e.g., Hebron, Bashan. Could these be remnants of pre-flood Nephilim? Mythological echoes. Giants in various traditions, e.g., the Norse Jotnar, are often described as mountain dwellers, reflecting a cultural memory of survivors who sought refuge at higher altitudes. 2. Subterranean refuges. Hollow earth and underground myths. Legends of subterranean beings, e.g., Agartha, Patalar in Hindu texts, might originate from stories of Nephilim who retreated underground. Geological possibility. If pre-flood Nephilim had advanced engineering, they might have created underground shelters akin to modern bunkers. 2. Genetic survival. Nephilim DNA resurfaces. A. Recessive genes in Noah's family. The idea of dormant Nephilim genetics resurfacing after the flood is compelling, supported by biblical texts and genetic principles. 1. Evidence in Scripture. Genesis 6 verse 4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. This implies a continuation of their lineage post-flood. Giants in post-flood accounts. Numbers 13:33 describes the Anakim as descendants of the Nephilim. Goliath and his kin, 2 Samuel 21 verses 15 to 22, demonstrate the persistence of giant-like beings in biblical narratives. 2. Modern genetic analogy. Recessive traits. Dormant genes may skip generations, reappearing when two carriers reproduce. Nephilim traits, e.g., gigantism, physical prowess, or intellectual superiority, could have re-emerged in isolated populations. 3. Speculative scenarios. Human Nephilim hybrids. The post-flood intermarriage between surviving Nephilim or their hybrids with human populations could have perpetuated their traits. Advanced knowledge. Their genetic legacy may include intelligence or knowledge, explaining the rise of early advanced civilizations. B. Cultural echoes and lineages. Historical giants. Historical references to a giancy in cultures worldwide, e.g., the Cyclopes, the Fomorians of Ireland, and the Titans, may represent distant memories of Nephilim descendants. Dynastic claims. Ancient rulers often claimed descent from divine beings. Could this be rooted in actual Nephilim ancestry? 3. Spiritual survival. The transformation into disembodied spirits. A. Nephilim as demonic entities. Book of Enoch. Enoch 15:8-12 suggests that the spirits of the Nephilim, upon their physical destruction, became earthbound demons. They were cursed to roam without bodies, seeking to influence humanity. Biblical support. Demonic possession in the New Testament, e.g., Matthew 8 verse 31, aligns with the idea of disembodied Nephilim spirits seeking embodiment. B. Post-flood influence. Demonic activity. The Nephilim's disembodied spirits may have inspired the rise of oppressive empires or tyrannical rulers, echoing their pre-flood behavior. Cultural parallels. Stories of malevolent spirits in world folklore, like the jinn of Islamic tradition or the asuras in Hinduism, might represent echoes of disembodied Nephilim spirits. 4. Symbolic survival. Archetypes of giants and tyranny. A. Giants in myths and folklore. Universal archetypes. Nearly every culture has stories of giants who represent chaos, rebellion, or divine defiance. This suggests a shared cultural memory of beings like the Nephilim. B. Symbolism of corruption. Theological reflection. The Nephilim might symbolize humanity's tendency toward corruption, violence, and pride, which persisted despite the flood. Political allegory. In ancient texts, giants often symbolize oppressive rulers or empires. For instance, the giants in Numbers 13 might symbolize the overwhelming power of Canaanite cities. 5. Speculative theories. Advanced knowledge and technology. A. Pre-flood civilization. Advanced engineering. The Nephilim, being a mighty men of old, may have led technologically advanced civilizations capable of surviving cataclysmic events. Atlantis connection. Atlantis and similar myths might be distant memories of Nephilim-led societies. B. Genetic engineering. Speculative hypotheses. Some theories suggest the Nephilim engaged in genetic manipulation, creating hybrids that could survive extreme conditions. Modern echoes. Contemporary science fiction themes of hybrids, bioengineering, and underwater civilizations may reflect ancient stories of Nephilim survival. Conclusion. The many faces of Nephilim survival. Theories about the Nephilim's survival of the flood span physical, genetic, spiritual, and symbolic dimensions, drawing from scripture, myth, and modern speculation. Whether as aquatic beings, hidden lineages, disembodied spirits, or enduring archetypes, the Nephilim story continues to fascinate. Each layer of these interpretations invites further exploration of ancient texts and their implications for humanity's understanding of its origins. Would you like to explore one of these areas even more thoroughly? Perhaps the role of the Book of Enoch, or a deep dive into archaeological theories related to submerged civilizations? Yes, they definitely had the technology to do this. Thank you for this. Is there anything else, or anything more details to go into? ChatGPT. Absolutely, there's still more depth we can explore. The idea that the Nephilim possessed advanced technology raises fascinating possibilities regarding their survival before, during, and after the flood. Let's focus on the following areas in greater detail. The nature of Nephilim technology and knowledge. Connections to lost civilizations. Potential use of dimensional or supernatural portals. Legacy of their influence on post-flood humanity. Modern implications and speculative evidence. 1. The nature of Nephilim technology and knowledge. A. Biblical and apocryphal clues to advanced knowledge. The Book of Enoch and the Watchers. The fallen angels, often associated with their sons of God, imparted forbidden knowledge to humanity. Enoch 7-8. This included metallurgy, creating weapons and tools, astronomy and navigation, medicine and occult sciences. These technologies, passed on to their offspring, the Nephilim, suggest they possessed knowledge far ahead of their time. This aligns with the idea that they may have had the foresight and means to prepare for the flood. The Tower of Babel parallel. Genesis 11 describes humanity attempting to build a tower to reach the heavens. While not directly tied to the Nephilim, this demonstrates the technological ambition and architectural ability of early civilizations, possibly influenced by residual Nephilim knowledge. B. Engineering feats, pre-flood megastructures. Cyclopean architecture. Many ancient structures, such as those in Baalbek, Pumerpunku, and Göbekli Tepe, feature massive stones cut with precision and moved over great distances. These could be remnants of Nephilim technology, given their supposed great strength and intelligence. Underwater and underground bases. If the Nephilim anticipated the flood, they might have built refuges similar to modern-day bunkers or domed habitats. These would have been located under the oceans, possibly akin to myths of Atlantis. Deep within the earth, as some traditions of a hollow earth suggest. Energy and power sources. Ancient myths and speculative theories often mention lost energy systems, such as those associated with the Great Pyramid or ley lines. Could the Nephilim have harnessed such energies to sustain themselves or their refuges during the flood? 2. Connections to lost civilizations. A. Atlantis and other flood myths. Plato's Atlantis. Atlantis is described as a highly advanced civilization that sank beneath the waves. Some researchers speculate that Atlanteans might have been the Nephilim or their descendants. The timing of the Atlantis myth aligns with other global flood myths, suggesting a shared cultural memory of a cataclysmic event. Indus Valley Civilization. Legends from South Asia describe highly advanced, semi-divine beings. Could this point to surviving Nephilim influencing early Indian culture? B. Diffusion of knowledge post-flood. Surviving Nephilim could have carried their knowledge into early post-flood civilizations. Scion of knowledge post-flood. Diffusion of knowledge post-flood. Surviving Nephilim could have carried their knowledge into early post-flood civilizations, acting as kings and priests, semi-divine rulers who claimed authority over humans, echoed in Egyptian pharaohs, Sumerian kings, and Mayan rulers. Mythological teachers, figures like Prometheus or Quetzalcoatl, who bring knowledge to humanity, may be symbolic of Nephilim influence. 3. Potential use of dimensional or supernatural portals. A. Interdimensional survival. Angelic abilities. If the Nephilim inherited abilities from their angelic fathers, they might have used portals or alternate dimensions to escape the flood. Biblical examples, such as Jacob's ladder, Genesis 28 verse 12, and Ezekiel's visions, suggest that the spiritual realm and physical world are connected by gates or pathways. Cultural parallels. In Hinduism, the concept of lokars, realms or dimensions, suggests the possibility of beings escaping to other planes of existence. Norse mythology's Bifrost Bridge is another example of interdimensional travel. B. Biblical and extra-biblical hints. The abyss. The Nephilim could have been sealed or retreated to the abyss, a term used in both Genesis 1:2 and Revelation 9:1-2 to describe a deep, hidden place. Legends of Agartha. The Hollow Earth hypothesis suggests an advanced race of beings lives in the Earth's core. This legend could stem from stories of Nephilim survival in subterranean realms. 4. Legacy of their influence on post-flood humanity. A. Rebuilding civilization. Survivors, or those carrying Nephilim knowledge, might have guided humanity in rebuilding after the flood. Evidence includes the sudden appearance of advanced agriculture, architecture, and astronomy in post-flood societies. Myths of divine or semi-divine rulers teaching humans foundational skills, e.g., Sumerian kingship descending from heaven. B. Post-flood giants. Giants in Canaan, e.g., the Anakim, Rephaim, and Zuzim, are evidence of the Nephilim's persistence. Their presence suggests they attempted to re-establish dominance, possibly as regional rulers or military leaders. C. Occult knowledge. Forbidden Nephilim knowledge may have been preserved in secret traditions, later manifesting as ancient mystery schools, alchemy and early scientific experimentation, modern occult practices. 5. Modern implications and speculative evidence. A. Unexplained phenomena. Megalithic ruins. Sites like Pumapunku, Bolivia, and Sacsayhuaman, Peru, feature precision engineering that challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities. Submerged structures. Yonaguni Monument, Japan, and Bimini Road, Bahamas, are examples of submerged sites that may date to pre-flood times. B. Genetic evidence. Modern research into gigantism, unusual bone structures, and unexplained anomalies in ancient skeletons could point to Nephilim descendants. DNA studies on ancient remains could potentially reveal traces of a hybrid lineage. C. Speculative modern ties. Some conspiracy theories suggest that Nephilim descendants are alive today, hidden in secretive organizations or influencing humanity through covert means. Conclusion: what remains to be explored? The survival of the Nephilim weaves together ancient myths, biblical accounts, and speculative interpretations into a compelling tapestry. Their story speaks to humanity's fascination with advanced knowledge, divine-human interaction, and the endurance of mystery. Further areas for exploration. Archaeological investigations. Could unexplored ruins or submerged sites reveal more about potential Nephilim technology? DNA research. Can genetic evidence from ancient remains confirm the existence of hybrid beings? Cross-cultural comparisons. Examining flood myths and giant legends worldwide for further clues. Theological studies. Interpreting apocryphal texts and their implications for understanding the Nephilim. If you'd like, I can dive deeper into one of these areas or propose other related mysteries for discussion. Could there be yet any more details to go into a greater explanation of what was going on and what happened then, and what is happening now? ChatGPT. The Nephilim and their legacy continue to fascinate, offering a complex and layered story that blends ancient narratives, spiritual themes, speculative archaeology, and modern interpretations. To provide even more depth, we can extend the discussion to encompass the broader societal, spiritual, and scientific implications of what might have been happening before, during, and after the flood, and how those events might connect to the present day. 1. Pre-flood context: a world in chaos and transformation. A. The pre-flood world, a civilization unlike any other. Genesis 6 description. The pre-flood world is described as one of great corruption, where the wickedness of man was great on the earth, Genesis 6 verse 5. The presence of the Nephilim, described as a men of renown, implies a society dominated by their influence. This world likely had advanced civilizations, combining human ingenuity with knowledge granted, or stolen, from the angelic realm. B. The role of the Watchers and forbidden knowledge. The Watchers' influence, Book of Enoch. The Watchers, fallen angels, are said to have descended to teach humans forbidden arts, including metalworking, leading to weapons and potentially destructive technologies. Cosmetics and adornments, encouraging vanity and moral decay. Astrology, advanced understanding of celestial patterns, possibly leading to early navigation and calendar systems. Sorcery and medicine, creating early pharmacology but also introducing harmful practices. C. The Nephilim as rulers and tyrants. Power and oppression. The Nephilim likely held positions of power, exploiting humans and establishing hierarchies based on might and lineage. They may have created city-states, with some becoming centers of technology and culture, but also violence and depravity. Corruption of humanity. Their influence is described as pervasive, leading to moral and spiritual degradation. Some interpretations suggest genetic manipulation, producing hybrid offspring and altered species, e.g., myths of centaurs, griffins, and other chimeric beings. D. Signs of global cataclysm. Geological and astronomical anomalies. Ancient texts suggest unusual environmental conditions preceding the flood, earthquakes, volcanic activity, and possibly a celestial event, e.g., a comet or asteroid that could have been seen as divine judgment. Mythical parallels. Myths like Ragnarok, Norse, the Mayan Popol Vuh, and Hindu Pralaya describe a pre-cataclysmic age of giants, chaos, and divine wrath. 2. During the flood, mechanisms of Nephilim survival. A. Strategic adaptations. Subterranean refuge. Legends like those of Shambhala or Agartha, Hollow Earth, suggest that some Nephilim or their followers may have sought shelter underground, avoiding the surface devastation. These underground refuges could have included sophisticated ecosystems, air circulation systems, and storage of resources, similar to modern bunkers. Oceanic survival. If Nephilim had hybridized with aquatic life or created advanced technology, they could have survived underwater, possibly founding cities like Atlantis. B. Spiritual survival. Escape to the spiritual realm. Some Nephilim, unable to escape physically, may have entered a spiritual dimension, becoming the disembodied spirits described as demons in later biblical texts, e.g., Matthew 12 verses 43 to 45. Binding of the Watchers. The Book of Enoch describes the Watchers being bound in chains of darkness, here compared to Jude 6. This could symbolize a supernatural containment, separating their influence from humanity temporarily. 3. Post-flood legacy. Traces of Nephilim influence. A. The re-emergence of giants. Descendants of the Nephilim. Giants like the Anakim, Rephaim, and Og of Bashan appear in post-flood accounts, suggesting that Nephilim genetics persisted either through Noah's family or other surviving hybrids. Localized dominance. These post-flood giants often appear as regional rulers or warriors, echoing their pre-flood roles. B. Cultural continuity. The transmission of knowledge. Survivors of the flood, whether Nephilim or their human followers, may have passed on advanced knowledge. This could explain the sudden rise of early post-flood civilizations, such as Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, which showed advanced engineering, mathematics, and astronomy. Mythical echoes. Legends of giants and semi-divine beings, such as the Greek Titans, the Norse Jotnar, and the Polynesian demigods, may preserve fragmented memories of Nephilim. C. Spiritual warfare. Demonic influence. As disembodied spirits, Nephilim may have continued to influence humanity, fostering idolatry, occult practices, and tyrannical empires. Biblical examples. The Canaanite cults, which practiced human sacrifice and worshipped beings like Baal, could represent remnants of Nephilim-inspired corruption. 4. Modern connections. Could the Nephilim be relevant today? A. Unexplained archaeological evidence. Megalithic structures. Sites like Göbekli Tepe, Baalbek, and Machu Picchu challenge conventional timelines of human development, suggesting advanced pre-flood knowledge. Unusual skeletons. Reports of giant skeletons, often suppressed or dismissed, could point to lingering traces of Nephilim genetics. B. Genetic and technological manipulation. Parallels to modern science. The genetic mixing described in Genesis 6 echoes current discussions about CRISPR, cloning, and transhumanism. Could modern science be rediscovering and repeating the errors of the pre-flood world? Conspiracy theories. C. Spiritual and cultural influence. Conspiracy theories. Some theorists claim secret organizations are attempting to revive Nephilim genetics, citing alleged experiments in hybridization and bioengineering. C. Spiritual and cultural influence. Demonic activity. The disembodied spirits of Nephilim, if real, might continue to influence humanity through spiritual deception, fostering violence and moral decay. Pop culture fascination. The resurgence of interest in giants, ancient aliens, and hybrid beings in media reflects a deep-seated human curiosity, possibly influenced by subconscious memories of the Nephilim. 5. Speculative implications for the future. A. The return of the Nephilim. Biblical prophecy. Matthew 24 verse 37 states, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." Some interpret this as a warning that Nephilim-like beings or similar corruption will re-emerge in the end times. Technology and revival. Advances in artificial intelligence, bioengineering, and synthetic biology could pave the way for the return of the Nephilim, either through genetic reconstruction or the creation of human-angel hybrids. B. Global cataclysms. Modern parallels to the flood. Environmental, political, and spiritual crises today might mirror the chaos of the pre-flood world. Some see these as warnings of a coming reckoning. Final thoughts. The enduring mystery of the Nephilim. The story of the Nephilim is far more than an ancient tale. It is a prism through which we can examine humanity's deepest fears, ambitions, and questions about its origins and destiny. From the technological marvels of the ancient world to the rise of giants in myth and legend, to modern advancements in science that echo pre-flood transgressions, the Nephilim narrative offers a framework for exploring both the past and the future. Would you like to explore specific archaeological evidence, genetic research into giants, the prophetic implications of a Nephilim return? Let me know where you'd like to focus. Could you please write a science fiction story about this, as this really is science fiction, but for real this time? Please make it about 3 or 4 pages long, please. ChatGPT. Sure. Here's a science fiction story inspired by the Nephilim narrative. The last echo of the Titans. In the year 2153, humanity had reached the pinnacle of scientific achievement. Cities gleamed with bioluminescent towers, the oceans were charted and harvested for sustenance, and interstellar colonies flourished. Yet, beneath the veneer of progress, shadows of an ancient secret stirred, a secret whispered only in forgotten texts and buried myths. Dr. Elara Vaughan, a renowned archaeogeneticist, stood in the glaring lights of a subterranean dig beneath the Himalayas. A recent earthquake had unveiled a vast cavern network, revealing ruins that defied historical understanding. Walls of a massive chamber were inscribed with symbols predating Sumerian cuneiform, yet remarkably preserved. These inscriptions, she murmured, brushing her fingers over the carved stone. They match the patterns we found at Baalbek and Göbekli Tepe. This isn't just another isolated site. This is connected to all of them. Beside her, Dr. Malik Reeser, an expert in ancient linguistics, squinted at the carvings. Connected to what? Ilara? A global civilization? Or something else entirely? His voice wavered, betraying unease. Before Ilara could respond, a shout came from one of the dig teams further down the cavern. Dr. Vaughan, you need to see this. They rushed to the site, where workers had unearthed a perfectly preserved sarcophagus made of a strange, metallic alloy. Its surface shimmered unnaturally, shifting hues as if alive. At its center was a symbol, a hybrid of a human and serpent figure, encircled by patterns resembling DNA helices. The Awakening. In a high-security lab within the Himalayan research base, the sarcophagus was transported for analysis. Ilara's team used advanced imaging technologies to probe its contents. The results stunned them. It's a humanoid, said Dr. Reeser, staring at the screen displaying the skeletal structure within. Approximately 12 feet tall. The bone density is impossible. It's laced with metallic compounds we've never seen. But Ilara's attention was fixated on the genetic analysis. This isn't just human, as she whispered. The genome, it's interwoven with sequences that don't match anything terrestrial. Malik, this might be Nephilim. The term hung in the air like an uninvited ghost. Myths of giants, hybrids of humans and celestial beings, dismissed for centuries as mere folklore, suddenly seemed plausible. Ignoring the team's protests, Ilara authorized the sarcophagus opening. Using a plasma cutter, they sliced through its seals. With a hiss, the lid released a burst of cold vapor, and the being within was revealed. It was not dead. Genesis and Judgment. The entity's eyes flickered open, glowing with an unsettling amber light. Its form was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a humanoid figure with sinewy muscle, elongated limbs, and features that were both angelic and predatory. As it sat up, the room's temperature plummeted, and an unnatural silence fell. I am Acarnus, the being spoke, its voice resonating in frequencies that bypassed the ears and struck directly at the mind. The last of the Titans. The firstborn of the Watchers. The room erupted into chaos. Security forces raised their weapons, but Ilara raised a hand to stop them. Wait! Don't shoot! Acarnus turned to her, as if recognizing her authority. You have unlocked the ancient gates, it said. You, like your forebears, tread where wisdom and folly collide. What are you? Ilara asked, her voice trembling. I am Nephilim, Acarnus replied. Born of celestial fire and mortal clay. We ruled the earth before your flood, before your God cleansed the world of us. But not all were destroyed. We were sealed beneath the earth, awaiting the return of the Age of Titans. The New Age of Giants. As Acarnus spoke, the research base's systems went haywire. Energy surged through the facility, triggering blackouts across the Himalayan region. Satellites began picking up anomalous signals originating from deep within the Earth. Dr. Reeser gasped as his tablet displayed seismic readings. There's activity all over the globe. It's like something is waking up. Acarnus smiled, a cold, inhuman expression. The seals are breaking. My kin stir in their prisons. We shall reclaim the dominion stolen from us. Why now? Ilara demanded. Why emerge after all this time? Acarnus turned its glowing gaze to her. Because your kind has once again reached the threshold. You tamper with forces you do not understand. Genetic manipulation, interdimensional gateways, the fusion of flesh and machine. You repeat the sins of the watchers, and so the gates of judgment are opened. Elara's mind raced. She remembered her own work, attempts to decode ancient genomes, splice human DNA with extinct species to a revive evolutionary potential. Could her research have inadvertently triggered this awakening? A race against time. In the days that followed, the world descended into chaos. Ancient sites across the globe began emanating strange energies. Subterranean cities, long buried, were revealed, housing massive stasis chambers holding beings like Arcarnus. Some woke peacefully, others emerged with wrath, toppling cities and spreading fear. Governments scrambled to respond. Nuclear strikes were ordered against newly awakened giants, but their resilience defied human weaponry. In the midst of the chaos, Arcarnus remained with Elara's team, offering cryptic warnings. "You cannot stop us," it said, "but you can choose your allegiance. Humanity will either join us as vassals or perish." Elara, however, refused to surrender. She became obsessed with the ancient inscriptions, searching for a way to reverse the awakening. Her team uncovered references to a forgotten weapon, a divine artifact said to have been used to seal the Nephilim during the flood. Its location was unclear, but clues pointed to the depths of the Pacific Ocean, near the Mariana Trench. The final battle. Elara led an expedition to the trench, using cutting-edge submersibles equipped with plasma torches and AI navigators. There, hidden in an underwater cavern, they found the artifact, a crystalline sphere pulsing with energy. As they brought it to the surface, Arcarnus appeared, its wings unfurled, casting a shadow over their vessel. "You dare wield the weapon of the Creator," it roared. Elara stood firm. "You're right about one thing, Arcarnus. Humanity repeats its mistakes. But that doesn't mean we can't learn." She activated the sphere. A blinding light enveloped the scene as energy surged outward, targeting not only Arcarnus but resonating with similar frequencies across the globe. One by one, the giants fell, their bodies dissolving into dust. Epilogue: the dawn of a new era. In the aftermath, humanity grappled with the knowledge that the myths of old were real. The ruins of ancient cities were explored, yielding insights that advanced science and technology by centuries. Yet, questions lingered. Were the Nephilim truly gone? Or had the sphere merely delayed their return? Elara, hailed as a hero, dedicated her life to ensuring humanity never again crossed the line between creation and destruction. But in the quiet hours of the night, she often gazed at the stars, wondering if somewhere, in the vastness of the cosmos, the Titans waited for their time to rise again. This story merges ancient myths with speculative science, bridging past and future in a narrative of humanity's eternal struggle with hubris and survival. Would you like to think of a title for this conversation, and help me make a disclaimer for turning this conversation into a mini audiobook for YouTube? ChatGPT. Title for the conversation: The Nephilim Chronicles, Awakening of the Ancient Titans. Disclaimer for turning this into a mini audiobook for YouTube. This audiobook is a work of speculative fiction inspired by ancient myths, religious texts, and modern science fiction concepts. It explores themes of human curiosity, morality, and the intersection of myth and technology. The content is fictional and not intended to reflect or promote any particular belief system, scientific theory, or historical accuracy. Viewer discretion is advised as the story contains elements of mystery, adventure, and mythological references. All characters, events, and interpretations are purely imaginative and should be enjoyed as creative storytelling. Let me know if you'd like to tweak the disclaimer further or add additional elements specific to your project. Okay, good. Now we need a disclaimer for the first part of the conversation. Before the science fiction story, please. ChatGPT. Disclaimer for the discussion before the science fiction story. The discussion presented in this segment explores speculative interpretations of ancient myths, religious narratives, and cultural legends. It combines creative conjecture with historical and mythological references, aiming to inspire thought and imagination. This content is not intended to assert factual accuracy or to promote any specific worldview, belief system, or scientific theory. All ideas discussed should be understood as imaginative exploration, meant for entertainment and intellectual curiosity only. Let me know if you'd like further refinements or additional disclaimers. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.